Congratulations! Hello! Welcome to another Dreadlocks question and answer video, a Dreads Q&A, where you ask the questions and I attempt to answer them. The first question this week is from Madison Lecher, and Madison asks, question, I put a dreadlock into my hair in the process of slowly putting dreads in my hair one by one, and I was wondering how you maintain your roots without using a crochet hook. You may have already answered this in a video, but I'm not sure. Roots kind of do their thing in their own time. While there are processes, techniques, tools that will hold the roots tight, I personally do not recommend going in there and doing that. If you go in there and make them unnaturally tight, you're going to be pulling on the hairs, it's going to be pulling on your scalp, and also making the hairs too tight to sort of move and do their own thing. While they're all unnaturally tight like that, they're not going to be able to progress in the same way as they would if you'd left them alone. And this means that they will stay tight for a bit and then they will grow out, and then you'll likely go in and fix them again, and then they'll grow out and you go in and fix them again. Whereas if you leave them alone, if you kind of go through the awkward looks like the dreads are going out phase, if you just ignore them, which is kind of the best thing to do with regards to all young dreadlocks problems, because they are going to be messy and not quite how you want while they're young. If you ignore the roots, let them do their thing, they will slowly tighten by themselves, and once they have tightened all the way to the root, that's it. They are tightened and locked there for life. As the hair grows, the roots will lock by themselves and you will never need to worry about them again. Betz asks, question, you mention deep cleaning quite often. When you say one part this and a few parts that, how do you distinguish the measurements of the parts? When I have ingredients that are measured out in parts, they're ratios. This means that people all over the world that have different size measuring containers that use different systems for measurement can still get the same consistency if they follow the instructions. This means that if you have 1 part something to 5 parts water, doesn't matter how big your parts are, as long as it's 1 to 5, the mixture will be the same consistency. Scruffydreadedlad asks, question, dude, is it healthy to be as lively as you are all the time? Do you get much sleep? Do you ever sleep? Or just plug into the wall and recharge each night? I actually save up all my energy through the whole day and then use it in this video. So before the video, I'm just like... And then I press record and I go through all these questions really, really fast and get all this information out, and then when the video is finished... And then I spend the next few days recharging before I film again. PacoCareless asks, question, on the days that you don't shampoo your hair, while you're showering, do you allow the water to run through your hair, or do you leave it dry and avoid water touching it like it's the freaking plague? Okay, so I don't wash my hair every single day because it's not practical to wash dreadlocks every single day, but that does not stop me from being able to shower in the in-between times. But during these in-between times, no, I don't let water run through my hair while I'm showering. I have my hair either tied up, or normally I will pull my t-shirt up and have them held in the t-shirt while I shower, because otherwise I keep having random dreads fall down and land in soap and stuff, and it's just annoying. I don't let the water run through my hair on the in-between days because the annoying part of washing dreadlocks is not the washing, it's not the shampooing, it is the drying. So I'm not going to let my hair get wet in the in-between times, because then I would still have to dry them without actually having cleaned them, and that would just be really annoying and pointless. If my hair is going to get wet and I'm going to have to dry it, then I'm going to wash it. I'm going to shampoo it. I'm going to get the whole thing done at once. Facebook question this week is from Angela Hurst. My dreadlings are 4 months old. I separate several times a day because I get this webbing between them. A few hairs want to make a web between 2 dreads. Is there a good way to separate them other than me just ripping the web apart and trying to figure out which hair should go where? Dreadlocks are going to want to stick together. Dreadlocks are made of hairs that are stuck together, and hairs don't know where exactly they're supposed to go. So if you have 2 dreadlocks next to each other, those hairs are going to knot with hairs that you want them to knot with, hairs within their own dread, but they're also going to knot with hairs that are next to them in the neighbor dread. While the dreadlocks are young and soft, you're going to find this happens a lot of the time, and you're going to have to separate quite regularly. But as the dreadlocks get older, tougher, stronger, you're going to find it doesn't need to be done quite as often. Generally, separating is done by taking the 2 dreads that are starting to stick together and then just pulling them in opposite directions. The idea is that if you do this often enough, the 2 dreadlocks are going to be much stronger than the binding hairs, so when you pull them in opposite directions, you'll pull out or break those binding hairs, but you won't damage the dreadlocks because those hairs will break long before the dreadlock. If you don't do it often enough, if you let it get out of hand, then you can get to the point, yeah, where the binding hairs have started to mat together so much that it's as strong as 2 dreads, in which case it kind of needs cutting, but ripping them apart is generally the way that it is done. Some people cut them apart, but I don't really recommend this because you really don't want to be taking scissors to the dreads near the roots if you don't have to, because it is all too easy to cut hairs that you don't want to cut, especially if you're doing it yourself. Every time that you do pull them apart, you will end up with those binding hairs kind of loose and floating around, and you can find that they will then knot back together again. You have to separate, and they'll knot back together again, you have to separate. But the idea is that slowly over time, some of those hairs will start to knot with the hairs that you want them to knot with, so every time you separate them, you should be having to hopefully pull apart slightly fewer, and then eventually it becomes kind of a non-issue. I've had my dreadlocks a long time now, so my dreadlocks are mature and they don't need separating very often at all. I realise that I'm not exactly the best role model for this. I'm not the best example considering how many Congos I have. But once the dreadlocks are mature, they will combine so slowly that it doesn't take a whole lot of time to keep on top of it. Those are my questions for this week. If you would like to ask me a question to be answered in a Q&A video, you can either leave it in the comment section below, writing question at the start of your comment, or you can join the Facebook page at facebook.com/lazydreads, and each week I will post a status asking for questions. Whichever question as a response to that status gets the most likes by the time that I film my next Q&A video, that question will be answered that week straight away without going through the whole queue of YouTube questions. If you like this video, if you enjoyed it, if you found it helpful, found it useful, you can click the like button. If you'd like to see more videos from me in the future, you can of course subscribe. If you're looking for dreadlocks information, guides, tips, help, advice, tutorials, questions being answered, you can find all my stuff on lazydreads.com. I'd like to thank you for watching. I hope to see you again next time. Farewell! Hmm.